welcome. My name is Christina and I am the Cozy Knitter. You can find me online on Instagram and Ravelry as the Cozy Knitter, or you can go to my website, which is thecozyknitter.com. I have a few things that I want to share with you today. It has been a very long time since I last recorded anything, so I should have loads to talk about. But I kind of lost my knitting mojo during that time. It's coming back. I'll show you a few things that I've worked on and some plans that I have brewing. But first of all, this Saturday, April 27th, is the Toronto Knitters Frolic, which is put on by the Toronto Knitters Guild. And yours truly has a booth. I am really excited about this. For those of you who are not familiar with the show, it's an invite-only show. They don't do like an open call for vendors, so the fact that they reached out and offered me a booth at the show is really, really special, and I'm so grateful that for the first time I'll be able to vend at this show. It was the first show that I attended as a knitter, and I just remember that first show when I walked in with two of my girlfriends, Nancy and Shauna. It just took our breath away. It was so overwhelming. There were so many vendors, so many beautiful things, and now a few years later I will be one of those vendors, and maybe somebody else will have that experience attending for their very first time. So that's really, really special for me. So that is on Saturday, and it is at the Japanese Cultural Center in Toronto, which is just off the DVP near the Ontario Science Centre. If you're in the area, I hope that you'll swing by and see all the beautiful things that are there. And of course, come by and say hi. And then I kind of did something a little crazy. A lot crazy. I haven't done a show in, almost 2 years. 2 years ago, I vended for the very first time at the Kitchener-Waterloo Knitters Fair. It was a really, really fun day. It was exhausting. Those of you who were there that year will remember it was the year that their normal venue was under construction. So instead of doing it on the twin pads with no ice, they did it on the OHL pad, which had ice. So it's in a hockey arena, and very Canadian. So the ice was in because the hockey season hadn't ended. So they put on the rubber mats, I guess they are, that they would use for other trade shows and concerts and whatever they would have during the season. So you were setting up on top of this really cold surface, and as the day went on, your feet were just aching. But that was 2 years ago. That was my very first show, and now the Frolic will be my second. So I don't have a lot of experience vending, and I'm really kind of nervous and stressed about it. I know it'll be fine. I know as soon as the doors open and people start coming in, you'll forget all about your nerves and anxieties and all that, and it'll be fine. But leading up to it can be a little bit nerve-wracking, and I'm sure anybody else who may be an indie dyer or in any other sort of profession where you have to do trade shows or that kind of thing can relate to that. But I don't know exactly what came over me, but I thought, hey, wouldn't it be fun to do a couple of more shows? And part of the problem that I have with them is that most of the shows are during the summer, and the summer is really hectic in our family. If this is your first time watching, or I don't post a lot about it, but I am married and I have 5 little boys. So our summers are filled with baseball and lacrosse and swimming and scouts and camping and all of those things. So there isn't a lot of spare time for me to do things, and working in a show is very difficult when I don't know what our schedule is like, typically till about this time. So like April is when I'll have everybody's schedule, and by then it's too late to get into a show. So I try to avoid the summer shows just because it's too difficult to schedule, and that is when most of our local shows are. So the Frolic is really the first one that I can do, and then the Kitchener-Waterloo show is really the first one on the other end of the spectrum that I can do. That one's still a little bit tricky because it's just as the kids are going back to school, and we all know how crazy that first week is. So I thought well, I'll try to do a show in the fall, but there aren't any around here. So crazy me decided, why don't we why don't we put an application for Knit City? That's in Vancouver, that's in the fall, and they accepted it. So in October, on October 5th and October 6th is when Knit City is being held this year. The Cozy Knitter will be in Vancouver, BC, and I will bring all of my yarns with me, and I'm not stressed at all. Not at all. Only a lot. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I just gotta figure out the logistics, but who does that? Who does that? It's only my third show, and I'm doing it out of province, across the country. I've got to get. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about it until after the frolic. But I am super, super excited and so thankful to the organizers of Knit City for giving me the opportunity to come over and see all of the knitters in the Vancouver area. And I know a lot of people travel into Vancouver for this show. It is a 2-day event with classes running on the Friday as well. So it's definitely worth the trip. There is so many great vendors. I saw the floor plan, and there are, I don't know, I would guess somewhere 100 plus vendors there. It's a really big event, and I have only heard wonderful things about it from years past. So I'm so excited that I get to go and attend and meet more knitters. I'm really thrilled. That's going to be a really big highlight of my year to do this. So I hope, again, if you're in the Vancouver area, British Columbia area, and you're planning on attending, I hope you'll stop by the booth. I hope you'll say hi. And if you're planning on traveling in, do let me know. I would love to get together with as many of you as I possibly can while I'm over there. Okay, now onto the knitting. So my first finished object, my only finished object, I don't even have it on hand to show you guys. If you have watched the podcast, the Dye Another Day podcast, before, you might have seen some of these before, and I know I've posted it on my Instagram, but the first project that I've knit is a pair of Northman mittens, and they are, for those of you who are not familiar with it, I'll pop in a picture here of the mittens that I finished. It is a pattern by David Schultz, and it is a pair of colorwork mittens, and I knitted up in these 2 skeins of Lure, which is by the Fiber Co. I knitted it up in Logical and Mystery. This is a DK weight yarn, and the pattern, I believe, calls for, I'm pretty sure I knit it 2 pattern, but I used a 3.25 millimeter needle for the outer mitten, which was these 2, and like I said, it's DK weight, and it turned out really, really beautiful, and it fit perfect for my hand. I have before used Barocco, I think it's called Light Alpaca DK. I'm not sure, but very similar in weight. I have also knit them out of a different yarn, and it just, the gauge was a lot smaller. So just be careful and just sort of play with your gauge if you are going to make it, because there's nothing worse than finishing a pair of colorwork mittens only to realize they're too small. And I was really pleased with how they came out. They came out sort of large just when I'd knit the outer mitten, but you see they're lined, and the yarn I chose to line it with is a yarn that I've used before, again for the same project. I think this is my fourth or fifth pair of Northman mittens, so I've worked with them before, but this is what I chose to line it with. This is Brasserie, which is by Blue Sky Fibers. Again, this is another DK, and this colorway is called Pink Lemonade. And the inner mitten, so the liner, I knit on 3 millimeter needles just to get a little more snug so that the mitten stays nice and close, and also just to make the inside mitten slightly smaller than the outside one, so it all fits together. But outside and the inside. So these were a gift for a friend that I'd made especially for her because pink is her favorite color. And I just thought she would appreciate it. So I knit these up and I gifted them to her just over a week ago. So I don't have it to show, but picture. So this kind of started a little bit of a colorwork kick, and this is what sort of kind of got my mojo back, and loved working on this. But then I haven't been watching a lot of podcasts lately, but when I purchased this yarn was actually probably a couple of months ago when I went to the newest yarn shop here in Toronto, and that is the Knitting Loft. It is located close to Yorkdale Mall if you're from around town, and it is a phenomenal store. They have not everything, but I mean they have everything. They have so many beautiful things, and I had specifically gone to look for something for that colorwork mittens, but then when I was there I saw that they carried Finool by Rama. And this is the PT2, which if you watch podcasts, you're familiar with Skein Deer, Ellie from Skein Deer, and this is a yarn that she uses a lot. So when I saw this on their shelves, I just had to pick up a couple of skeins, and I am planning on knitting a pair of colorwork mittens designed by Ellie. Currently, I'm thinking the snow, I'm going to butcher it, but if you translate it to English, it would be snow mittens out of this yarn. And I'm not sure if this is the exact colors that she used in the pair of mittens that is featured in the pattern, but it's got to be really close. So there's a little bit of contrast, but not like a lot, and I really kind of like that. And I don't believe Ellie's pattern calls for them to be lined, but I do have this extra skein, so I might just do it anyway. If this ends up being a little bit too thick, I could always use the leftover mohair that I have, but it wouldn't be quite as luxurious as the brush sherry. So I'm not too sure what I'm doing quite there yet, but mittens, they're just a lovely, compact, small project to bring with you when you are on the go. And 5 kids, I'm on the go a lot. With that said, I have one son who plays baseball and one son who plays lacrosse, and their seasons have just started up, and we're going to be doing quite a bit of traveling and the like for their tournaments and a few other things coming up. So lovely to have something small and compact that I can just bring with me and not have to worry about how much I can fit in my suitcase. Perfect. So that's one thing that I will be working on. And then I did actually start a pair of mittens for myself also. See if I can dig them out. I have this whole bin of stuff here to show you. Here they are. So I did start mittens for myself, and these are just thrum mittens. It's just a basic thrum mitten pattern. I will link it below for those of you who might be interested. And they are just the softest, warmest, most beautiful things. So when we're in the States in the fall, my son who plays on a travel lacrosse team, we were in the States for a couple of tournaments, and boy did I wish I had these. So I have one done, and I got to make the other one still. And this is actually knit out of my own yarn. So if you know anything about me, you know that I dye self-striping sock yarn, and this is not self-striping sock yarn. But I happen to have a few skeins of this DK yarn and some roving. So I dyed up this kit. So this is the yarn. This is it's a DK weight yarn. Well, it's labeled as a DK yarn, but it's kind of a heavy DK or a light worsted weight. And it's got a gray base, but it has this sort of purple running through it. So, but it doesn't really show up as you're knitting it. You can't really tell. but it creates some fun tonal effects in it. And then the roving is this. And again, it sort of has some tonal effects in it. It's mostly blues, purples, and there's some teals in there. Some of the braids that I did have a little more white spots in it, or it's more variegated than tonal. But I did dye up a few of these kits. So if you are interested in making a pair of mittens in the same colorway, they were all dyed in the same pots, then I do have kits available for this in the shop right now, and it's called the Polar Vortex mitten kit. So there's that. But that is my half mitten, half finished object, and I gotta knit up the second one to have for fall. So I got 10, it's fine. And then the other thing I've been knitting on is, surprise, it's socks. There is this pair, which I cast on in time for St. Patrick's Day because it's one of my St. Patrick's Day colorways. This one here is Pot of Gold. So it has, it's my little woven in end. It has the gold cuff, and then this big thick green stripe, and then a mini rainbow, and that's just how it repeats throughout. Now this was a colorway that I came out with last year in 2018, but in 2018 I used this green, and this is the 2019 green, so it's not quite as vibrant. This one here is an almost fluorescent green, whereas this one here is much more rich in color. So I prefer this one. My husband prefers this one. They're both nice, but this is as far as I got. This is as far as I got. I had every intention of having these finished in time for St. Patrick's Day, but as you can tell, I fell short. Oh well. Maybe next year. Maybe they'll be done for next St. Patrick's Day. That's fine. Now I'm knitting these using my Addi Sock Rockets. This is a 2.25 needle. So away with those. But you see, what distracted me was a new colorway that I dyed up. It was dyed specifically to match fabric for some project bags that my mother-in-law had sewn for the shop. And I listed it for sale a couple of weeks ago, and they sold almost instantly, but this is the colorway that went with it. And this is my Spring Frolic colorway. And I almost have one sock completely done. I'm working on the toe decreases now, but I really like this. It's fun, it's festive, it's just really great for spring and summer. I really like this red. It's not like an in-your-face red, but it's like, I call it a berry red because it was sort of raspberry red to me. But I really like this one. And like I said, it was a big hit in the shop. And I am dyeing more. It's currently drying, so it will be listed in the shop again soon. This is the heel that I used, which is an eye partridge, but then I did 3 stitches of garter on the side, just to make it nice and easy to pick up along the edges here. So yeah, I just have the toe left on that, and this sock I'm knitting using my Signature Needle Arts needles, which is my preferred sock needle. This is their 2.25 needles. These are my 6-inch ones. Well, most of them are. This guy's my 5-inch one. I have a couple of sets, but I prefer my 5-inch 2.25 needles for sock knitting. My absolute favorite. And then I'm going to show you a sneak peek at my 2018 April Yarn of the Month Club colorway. It has been sent out to all club members, so you may or may not have received yours yet if you are a club member. There are spoilers posted. There are spoilers posted over in the Ravelry group, which is also linked below. I'm just going to show you really quickly. And I'm going to black and white this. But if you do want to see the color shot, please head over to the Ravelry group and you'll be able to see it in color. I really, really like this colorway. It's bright and festive and something maybe a little unusual, maybe something you wouldn't quite have expected, because my typical colors are these sort of more muted colors. So this was probably something people didn't expect, but I still think it's sort of true to my style. But this here is my April Club colorway, and I love it. I love it, I love it. So I'm still using my Aya Partridge heel with the 3-stitch garter over here, and I'm just about to turn the heel, but ran out of needles, so I gotta finish that other sock so I can do this one. I am really loving this color, and I hope my club members did as well. The first people got theirs last week on Thursday, I guess it would have been, because of the holiday, and I know a few more people have received theirs lately, so I'm really, really curious to hear what you guys thought of it, and we'll see. Maybe I'll start dyeing more colors in that sort of style. But speaking of the club, I thought I would show you the first quarter of the Yarn of the Month Club colorway. So I only have the skeins. I haven't had time to knit up a sample for each of them. But the first colorway was Cheerful. This is Cheerful. It is a six stripe colorway, and you can kind of see all the different colors in there. Again, with sort of a pinky red contrast to go with it. Now these are all on my Bliss base, which is my 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. So this was Cheerful. This was January. In February it was cold, it was snowing, miserable. I don't like winter at all, but it did inspire this colorway, which is called Polar Vortex. So this one here is a 5-stripe, and one of the stripes is variegated and has a little bit of speckling in it. You can sort of see the little black specks here and there. There's a few up here, and they are also in that variegated stripe. And I think this one is really pretty, and it was sort of to go along with that mitten kit. They're dyed with the same dyes, so these are sort of the colors that you could expect to be in the fiber. And then for March, I went completely the other direction, and this colorway is actually inspired by a picture a friend of mine had sent me for inspiration. And in March, I dyed up Ugly Duckling, and this is a 4-stripe colorway. There's this really bright yellow, and then there's this softer sort of duckling yellow here, and the sky blue and a brown for the tree. So that was March, and then, like I said, secret sneak peek, that was the April colorway. And I'm not going to tell you the colorway name, but you can see it over on the Ravelry group. And I am in the process of taking pictures of some club colorways that I had in overstock, but that are not yet released to the mainstream shop. It's going to be available in the Yarn of the Month Club colorway, or Yarn of the Month Club membership shop, which is a subsection of the store, and you can only shop that section if you're a current club member. So there's going to be a few colorways going up there. There was 2 already added. Just trying to see which ones they were. Tulip Fields would have been one, and I can't recall what the other one is, but there's about a handful of other ones that are coming, and I do have some overstock of Ugly Duckling, and the April Club colorway will be going up there as well. So if you really like the April Club colorway and you weren't a member for April, then you can join the club for May, and then as soon as you've joined the club for May, then you can go into the club members area, and you can actually purchase the April colorway in there, and it will just ship out with your May shipment. Okay, speaking of clubs, I joined a club back in the fall. This was a club that was a combination of dyers. It was organized by Tiffany of Twill and Print. And she got together with a few friends, and they decided to do a Gilmore Girls club. It was a 4-month club. It was based off of the new Gilmore Girls reboot over on Netflix, which was, I think it's called Gilmore Girls Seasons. So each month you got a skein of yarn for a specific season, and then you got a little charm to go with it. So I'll show you the colorways that I got. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So it started with winter. I think winter was the first one. And let's see here. So this, I believe, is winter. I might have switched these up, but I believe this was winter. And this is by Woolberry Fiber Co. This is her berry cashmere base, which is 80% superwash merino and 10% cashmere and 10% nylon, 400 yards. And this colorway is called Stress Tap Dancing. It's really pretty. It's got all different tones of green, and then it's got this, it looks black speckling, but it's really like rust and blue, and there's some orange in there. They're really pretty. I don't know if I hold it up there, you can kind of see. It's not quite focusing, but really pretty colorway. It reminds me of Holly. I don't know why, but probably because of her labels, sort of reminds me of Holly too. But this was the first installment. Now I have put the charm that came along with the skein on a project, and I can't remember which one, so I don't have that with me. I'll see if I can find it. And then the next skein was Spring, which I believe was this one, which is by Hey Sister Yarn Co. And this is on their 75 superwash merino, 25% nylon base, and it's 463 yards. And this colorway is called Paris Geller Rules the World. So it's really soft pink and white with, again, these beautiful speckles in it. They're mostly like berry colors, like pinks and purple, and then but there's a little bit of blue and sort of like a rusty yellow in there as well. Just really pretty. Really, really pretty. And the charm that came with that one was this beautiful little flower. So the neat thing that Tiffany had done, because like I said, it was 5 different companies collaborating to do this yarn club, was Tiffany did these little charms that came one every month. And the first month we got this little pin that you could pin on your bag, and it was a little sort of, I think it said Stars Hollow on it, like a little banner, and then it had 4 little loops that you could then hook these ones onto. Again, I'm not sure where I put it. It will be in a project bag hiding somewhere, but we're not going to talk about how many projects I have on the go at the moment and how many project bags are hiding. We're just not talking about that. I will find it. But this was really, really cute. And then for summer, I believe this one was summer. I could be wrong. I think I'm wrong. I think this is fall. Yes, it says right on. For summer, we got this beautiful skein of Knitting It Up yarn. This is on her 85 superwash merino and 15% nylon base. It is 437 yards, and this is dyed by Annie, who's here in Canada. And for this, it's really pretty like lavender, but with lots of speckles and sort of splotches of color all through, which is really nice. Annie does beautiful work. There. So with this one was this little dragonfly, and goes really well with it. It's hard to see maybe on camera, but there's a little bit of purple there in the body of the dragonfly. So this was the summer skein. And for fall, we got a skein of a homespun house, and this is my first skein of a homespun house, I believe. And this is on her plump merino fingering base. It is called A Little Help from My Friends. It's 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon, and it is 390 yards. And the charm that went with this was this little coffee mug, and it has a little leaf beside it, which is super, super cute. So I joined this club on a bit of a whim because I'm a little bit of a Gilmore Girl fanatic. This was actually something that I had talked to Annie of Knitting It Up with a couple of times about how we're both sort of Gilmore Girl fanatics, and I tend to rewatch the series around my birthday every year, which is in June. So when I saw that these 4 amazing dyers and then Tiffany was just an added bonus, that these 5 women, 6 women I guess because there's 2 sisters, when they were all collaborating on this project, I thought I have to join that. So I joined the club right away, and I've been so pleased with every skein that came in the door, and I can't wait to knit with these yarns. I don't have any specific ideas for what I'm going to knit with it, because like I said, I was a bit of a knitting slump, and it was just really lovely to have these skeins come in every month and sort of remind me, and I can't wait to knit with them. I'm sure I'll find the perfect project for each of the skeins. But I was trying to sort of get my knitting mojo going here again. So I was looking through my stash, and I found some really pretty skeins of yarn that I had purchased at Rhinebeck this year and the year before. Well, last year and the year before, because Rhinebeck's in October. And then last year, at Rhinebeck, I also picked up a copy of Pom Pom magazine. And inside this, so this is the Winter 2008 edition, and this shawl just had me from the get-go. It is so beautiful. It is brioche. This part here is brioche, and I just really, really liked it. So as soon as I saw this pattern in Pom Pom, I rushed over to Primrose Yarn Company, and I was looking for 2 skeins that would go well. So I was looking for a solid and a variegated, or like a speckly skein. And let's see, which ones did I get this year? These 2. So these are the 2 skeins that I bought at the most recent Rhinebeck, both by Primrose Yarn Co. And these are both on her Adelaide base, which is 100% superwash merino. This one here is called Morticia, and this one is called Kameshuar. So I think it would have a really nice contrast between the 2. That would work well for the brioche. But then when I came home, I remembered I bought 2 skeins from her the year before as well. That would probably work really well. So introducing, here is Bic Gruesome and Sweater Weather. I think these 2 would also do really well in a brioche project. So I'm just not sure which pairing I'm going to choose. So if you guys have a preference, I'm not sure, this is more purpley and obviously darker, and this one there would be less contrast because they are more similar in the colors used. This one's obviously darker, but a lot of the colors, like this green, repeats, and this sort of purpley brown is in both skeins. So yeah, I can't quite decide, but that's a project I have wanted to knit ever since I saw it in Pom Pom, and I just gotta decide. I just gotta pick one, cast on, and either way, I'm sure I'll love it. I'm sure I'll love it. How can you go wrong, right? So pretty, so pretty. So that's sort of what I have been up to. Of course, I am elbows deep in dyeing, in prepping for my show, because it is coming up so quickly. I have a couple of days left before setup is on Friday. All right, guys, that is it. I got to get back to work. I hope you all had a lovely Easter, for those of you who celebrated, and if you didn't, I hope you just had a lovely time with your friends and family. And I am off to the dye pots. I got to reskein. I got so much to do. Happy knitting, everybody, and thank you so much for spending this little time with me. It means so much to me.